Take a Switz this holiday.
Now at Mary Switz's of North Syracuse, so much Christmas fun for kids. Come see, there's a world of joy for every girl and boy. Special holiday excitement now at Switz's, one fantastic Christmas variety store. Thruway exit 36, Route 81 North, exit 26 to South Bay Road. Look for the Switz's Tower.
Get away. Take a Switz this holiday.
Hello everyone, Spooky Guy 444 here. Now this is a bit of a different direction for the channel, but nonetheless it is something that I have wanted to do a deep dive into for a very, very long time. If you watched my 5 Lost Animatronics video, you may be familiar with today's topic. Please watch it if you haven't already. Upon learning about a gigantic robot troll not having any videos online, I couldn't believe the rabbit hole I was about to get into. Today's video will be split up into multiple chapters, diving deep into each chapter and the lore behind this store and its characters. If you never watched 5 Lost Animatronics, that's okay. So, without further ado, I'm Spooky Guy 444, and this is Oscar the Monster and the Lost Mysteries of Switz. In 1898, a boy by the name of Mark R. Switz was born into the world. While there's limited info on his personal life, what he would go on to make in the future is what brings us all here today. Born in Michigan, Mark would eventually move to New York and start a family, and also a business. In 1947, at the age of 49, Mark would open the Switz variety store located in Brighton Avenue, New York, but in 1954, the store would move to North Plaza on Route 11 and South Bay Road in North Syracuse. Even in its earlier years, this store was popular for locals for its, wide variety of just anything and everything. Art supplies, decor, and much more lined the shelves of the 5 and a dime store. But that wasn't all. In its early years, Halloween decor wasn't what it would soon be known to be. It was originally all just cheap masks, small hanging decor, pumpkins. But all that would change come the early 80s, and it starts with a horror film. Yeah, not even kidding. In 1966, the horror series House of the Dark Shadows would premiere. While the show itself is irrelevant, this character here is. This is Barnabas Collins, a main character from the series, and what you're seeing on screen now is his old form. This design of Barnabas would get its own merchandise in the early 70s as a mask by MPC. As the show's popularity faded over time, so did this design, which was later changed to be named Vampire Van to avoid any licensing issues. But in 1975, the prestigious mask company Don Post Studios will release their own version of this mask, known as the Old Vampire, which would become a staple Don Post piece so much to where Trick or Treat Studios re-released the item decades later, spreading misinformation in the process. So what does any of this have to do with a hobby store in upstate New York? Simple. When Bertel Schmidt took over the store from his grandfather Mark, everything changed. In 1984, when Bertel Schmidt took over, he had enough foresight to see the economic boom that's coming to Halloween thanks to companies like Distortions Unlimited and the aforementioned Don Post Studios. This would birth the first iconic piece of Switz holiday history, the vampire. As you can see here, it's the same mask that we just talked about. An actor would dress in the costume at the storefront, pretend to be a statue, and hand out plastic spider rings to anyone who passed her by. While this was fun for a first start, it wouldn't even compare to what came next. In 1984, Switz would move across the street into a 21,000 square foot building mantled with a 21-foot tall clock tower. That same year, Bertel would take a trip to Germany for a toy fair where he would meet 2 prominent companies in this lore. The minor company being the David Hamburger Company, who you may actually be familiar with through their products, as even to this day they are very common in smaller scale attractions. Their animatronics only retained a singular motor and a cartoonish plush design. The second was High Motion. They are the main focus. Now, High Motion was a much greater company in terms of professional items, making a lot of animatronics for dark rides, big budget displays, attractions, and they were very high quality. They went defunct in 2022, but during the 80s was when they were the most active. At this 1984 show, they brought a few special things: a giant ogre, a band of skeletons, a Santa Claus, and much, much more. Bertel saw all these and knew what had to be done, bringing them to New York for the upcoming holiday season. They were all a hit, especially the ogre, who was officially named Oscar, Lord of Darkness. But we'll get back to him later. The new attractions were a success, and the 80s were a shining time for the company, but that would not last long. In May of 1993, Switz was hurting and was forced to size down and move into the Marketplace Mall. Not even a few months later, that same June, Switz announced they'd be closing its doors for good, selling everything on sale and taking their hit animatronics to auction. This was the end of Switz. But it wasn't the end of our animatronic friends here. No. This brief history is just the tip of the iceberg, especially for one particular animatronic. Let's talk about the Lord of Darkness himself, Oscar the Monster. If you remember in my 5 Lost Animatronics video, you'll remember this mighty beast was my number 1 pick. Well, after the video released, I did more digging and now can bring you all this information that is now shown here. In 1984, the German animatronic company High Motion, a company responsible for large-scale, extremely well-built animatronics, like I mentioned earlier, would make 2 giant trolls. Wait. 2? Yeah, we'll get back to that later. As stated earlier, Bertel would see our pal Oscar and pay a whopping $21,000 for the monster and bring him back to New York. Also, as stated earlier, Oscar was an instant classic in Syracuse, but I never did say how much of a hit it was. Well, he has clothing, plushies, and just all types of various other merch, and he truly became a staple of the Syracuse area so much to where tourists would come to the store from across the world to see Oscar and his skeleton bandmates. Those skeleton bandmates, we'll talk about them later as well. While Oscar's full audio and animation to this day is still unknown, we can assume that he does the following. His eyes would move, potentially also blinking. The head turns, the body turns, and there's mouth movement. Most of this information comes from the 1989 Halloween commercial showcasing Oscar for a brief second. I will play you that commercial right now.
Switz presents The Return of the Thief. Starring scary things and introducing tasty things. Funny things with everything to click and meet. Now showing at Switz's for Halloween. It's simply haunting.
Oscar was a 14-foot tall, green ogre with a large cartoon-style head. He held a large club in one hand, and on his neck was a necklace of human heads. Oscar was featured in several articles, promotional material, and other similar things to promote the Switz store during the holidays. When the store was forced to move in the 90s, the animatronic did actually follow, but as we know, that would maintain fruitless. When the store closed its doors, each animatronic was auctioned off around the same time. Richard Wagner would be the lucky man to win Oscar, the Skeleton Band, and others that we won't talk about until later. Oscar, he was able to secure for a $7,000 payment. Richard was hoping to use Oscar as his own attraction piece and even eventually resell it down the road. He'd take it across New York area and even all the way down to Florida. Unfortunately, no one would bite and there just wasn't any interest. Richard, however, would use Oscar at his house for Halloween each year until someone in the mid to late 90s would actually purchase Oscar. Eventually, Oscar was purchased by the owner of Ryan's Someplace Else. Not only that, but it's one of the prominent gay bars of the time period, meaning that Oscar was a part of history. And there's also no confirmation, since the story changes from person to person, as to what else the Ryan Someplace Else owner would have bought. Another alleged story is that in 2001, he was for sale at auction after Ryan's closed down, but I cannot find any evidence of this online. If this is to be true, then that was the final known sighting of Oscar over 23 years ago. Now remember, earlier I said there was two. Well, here he is. This is the German Oscar, as he never left the company after that trade show, but he is just as obscure. This variant was likely the same price, height, and had similar animation. Actually, the key differences are more the realistic head and the body shape, but there is a few photos of him outside of a haunted house ride in Germany. It's unknown what this ride is, but it's likely from an Oktoberfest event in the 80s, which is a festival in Germany. At some point later down the road, the Germany Oscar got friends. Mini Oscars that look like the one at Switz. Yes, you heard me. Baby Oscars. In 2021, by some insane chance, the Germany Oscar was actually listed for sale at $25,000 US. And that's it. That's all we know about both to this day. So let's go over a little bit of a timeline. 1984. High Motion debuts both troll animatronics. That same time, Richard Wagner purchases the Switz Oscar for $21,000 US. Germany Oscar is also purchased at the same time for an undisclosed amount. The Germany Oscar at some point later on got many Switz variants to go with him at this haunted house ride display. In 1993, the Switz Oscar is sold at auction to Richard Wagner for $7,000. In the mid to late 90s, Ryan Someplace Else allegedly purchases Oscar from Richard. In 2001, Oscar allegedly goes up for sale on a New York auction site, and in 2021, the German Oscar goes up for sale on a website that's like a German eBay for $25,000. As we know right now, Switz Oscar, Germany Oscar, and his babies are all lost to this day. But that isn't where this video ends. No, of course not. Because they didn't just do Halloween. They did every holiday with animatronics. Let's take a look at some of them. As stated earlier, Oscar and his variants are still lost to this day. However, he is not the only attraction that Switz had to offer. Before we get into the more prominent items, let's talk briefly about a few of the smaller things that Switz would put out for each holiday. Valentine's Day. Yes, they did Valentine's Day animatronics. Now, most of these were from the aforementioned David Hamburger Company, at least the ones that we know of. Ducks, pigs, little kids, and a Cupid prop all existed, but all of these are currently lost. Maybe. You see, hamburger ones could likely be found with enough digging on the internet, as they are such common animatronics, and with these ones being normal animals, I have a feeling that they could be found relatively easily. But for now, to put it safely, I'll mark this Valentine's Day display as mostly lost. There existed an Easter display as well, which is only known through articles talking about items that Richard Wagner purchased, the item being an oversized Easter egg and Easter bunny props. That's all the known information, however, but I do believe that this commercial is in reference to that said display.
Something exciting is happening at Switz's, and it's going to begin July 2nd.
Hey, Jocko, I think we're here.
It's always a good time for Switz's and you.
There also existed a back-to-school display, which had a schoolhouse facade. This entire display is lost media as a whole because there's literally no images of it, and it is only known because of the same article talking about Easter. As of right now, it's currently unknown if they had any displays for holidays such as Thanksgiving and Independence Day, but either or would probably be likely, especially Thanksgiving. But Christmas is where things get interesting, as this one has a ton of lost media. I'm going to play 2 commercials showcasing the animatronics, and then we can talk about them.
Bud, But there's only one way to get into Switz's colorful holiday spirit. Come to Switz's today.
Switz's holiday.
Now at Mary Switz's of North Syracuse, so much Christmas fun for kids. Come see, there's a world of joy for every girl and boy.
As you saw, the Christmas decor was absolutely loaded. Essentially, all the one animation plush characters are by David Hamburger, and those can be considered found from just this footage alone. What can't be, however, is the carolers. These carolers are ridiculously advanced, especially for the 80s. These were likely also made by High Motion. Unfortunately, these are partially lost as we do see their animation, but we cannot hear what audio they would play. But fortunately for us, one of the other animatronics from Christmas is actually found. Sort of. You see, the Santa was actually re-uploaded in higher quality to the High Motion YouTube channel. However, this version speaks in German and has a slightly different appearance. So it's technically partial loss still, but thanks to this video, we have a very good idea of how the original was, thanks to this video, which I will play right now.
Befall der König. Die Wachen stürzten sich und tanzten auf.
Now for Halloween. Most of the Halloween is likely found due to most of the smaller things being static, such as the sheet ghost and the owl, minus Oscar of course, except for the skeleton band. The band has the most lore of all of these, behind Oscar as a matter of fact. The band was also a high motion set, but it is unknown what they did. Well, at least to the general public. So you see, Syracuse Nostalgia, who I've been getting most of this info and videos and photos from. So before I keep going, I just want to say I appreciate all the work that they've put into this archive, as if it weren't for them, this entire thing would be lost to time. Back on topic, they allegedly were sent a video of the band in action from the man Richard Wagner himself, who allegedly purchased those at auction with Oscar. If someone can get in contact with Syracuse Nostalgia, maybe we can see at least the band in action, as it seems that Richard may still have them to this day. So let's do a recap of what is and isn't lost animatronics and media from the Switz store. All of the hamburger displays, except for Valentine's Day, could be found due to the commercials and other media, but with enough searching, I'm sure Valentine's Day could also be found as well. The Easter display has little to no information, as it's essentially entirely lost media. The carolers are partially lost. The Santa is actually found. The skeleton band is lost, but has the highest chance of being found. Oscar, of course, is partially lost, and German Oscar and the baby Oscars are fully lost as well. And that's it. I hope this video essay will shed more light on the hunt for these animatronics, as not only has this store captivated me, it's the childhood of many Syracuse locals, especially from that time period. I'd like to give another special thanks to the Syracuse Nostalgia team and their fantastic archive work. I will actually link their Facebook below. Thank you all for watching. I'm Spooky Guy 444, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.